Come on. Do I sound like I'm joking? Do I sound like I'm playing? When you look into my eyes, you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it to you slowly, and it may sound scandalous. I don't think that you can handle this.
Once again, we are on. I am the TheMoJoKing. He is the great Donnie Oooh, and this is Hidden Gems Football, brought to you by the mighty 19 Media Group. How are you today, Mr. Oooh?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain whatsoever. How about you?
I'm doing good. I shaved as I promised, so now I'm more ready for video. Before we start, I just have to give a quick shout out to my queen. It was her birthday. So happy birthday to you, Mojo Queen.
Happy birthday.
All right. In case you happen to miss the premiere episode, shame on you, go back and listen. But this is how it will go down. This podcast is made up of 3 sections. In section 2, we'll be breaking down the Thursday night game, tell you what we believe will be the keys of the game, and maybe give a prediction or two. Section 3 will be all about survivor picks. It's win or go home, and we will discuss who we think are the sure thing wins on Sunday. But before we get to that, there is section 1, and that is where Donnie Oooh puts his laser focus on one particular topic. Last week, he crushed Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens, as well he should. But what do you have this week?
This week, I'm choosing to keep it local. I'm choosing to talk about the resurgence of New York football. Both the New York Giants and the New York Jets are overperforming based on preseason predictions. And who would have thought that after the first 5 weeks of the season, the Giants and the Jets would have a combined record of 7-3.
They've both been surprisingly good. In particular, I don't know which one are you more stunned by record-wise, the Giants or the Jets?
I'm very surprised by the Giants. There's no way, and you know what, that I believe that the Giants were going to be 4-1 the first 5 weeks of the season. And the majority of the credit needs to go to coaching. Brian Daboll, to me, has changed that culture, the Giant culture, because right now, if you really want to think about it, coming into the season, the Giants' top 3 wide receivers were Sterling Shepard, Kenny Galladay, and Kadarius Toney. Do you know how many of those wide receivers are currently active on the roster? 0. Now, there has been a resurgence with Saquon Barkley. He's gone back to rookie year. Dare I say the second year. And the most important part of their resurgence is the competent play by Daniel Jones. And that all goes to coaching. Because right now, if you look at their roster, 1-53, you cannot say there's a top 10, top 20 player, any position, sans Saquon Barkley, both receiving and running the rock. But their problem coming into the season, or should I say their problem area, if you wanted to specify, was the quarterback position. And what Daboll has done, he has made sure not to put Daniel Jones in a position that he has to win the game. He just has to manage the game. He has to be, cognizant of turning the ball over. I want to say out of the 5 games, I want to say 4 to 5 games, he didn't throw more than 20 passes a game. I believe last week in the game against Chicago, which was a victory, he was 8 of 17 for 78 yards. But they won. And they weren't going away. They won convincingly. What Daboll has done is phenomenal. It's actually given Big Blue Nation a reason to rejoice. Now, going over to my favorite side. Matter of fact, before I do that, do you have a couple of cents you want to spew on the Giants' resurgence?
Well, I mean, I think you've hit it. I think their coaching has been amazing. Their defense has played really well, and Saquon has been a monster, the monster that they hoped he could be again. Glad to see he's fully recovered, and I'm hoping he gets a payday out of it. The only other thing I got about the Giants in particular is that it's kind of interesting. They have the Ravens coming up this week, right? But then their next 4 games after that are the Jags, the Seahawks, the Texans, and the Lions. All those games are very winnable. They might have 8 wins by halfway mark, which is just ridiculous to me. Now, I know you mentioned the Jets, but before you get to that, I actually want to save a little bit of that for the Survivor because I think we're going to have a pretty animated discussion about the Jets there. So I do have one quick question for you as far as this section goes. Do you think both the New York Jets and the New York Giants are playoff bound?
That's a good question. I believe the Giants should be in a position to play meaningful games in December for the first time in like 6 years. I believe 10 wins will get you safely into the playoffs in the NFC. 9 wins is still a possibility because you have a lot of underachieving teams in the NFC. Now the AFC, just through numbers on my own pod, I did predict that the Jets were going to get the 7th wild card, so I'm going to stay true to that. But I think the road is tougher in the AFC than the NFC. Yeah, so to answer the question, I guess the Giants will get in. The Jets, unfortunately, even though I predicted them to get in, they'll probably be on the outside looking in.
It's still early, so both of them could still blow up. But so far, you have to like what's going on in New York.
Yeah, it's been a hard couple years.
We'll see what the Jets and Giants do. Let's move on to section 2. The Thursday night travesties continue. I feel like the NFL is doing this on us on purpose to test out our limits. I think they've gone a little bit too far this time, but that's just me. This week we have the 1-4 Washington Commanders visiting the 2-3 Chicago Bears. As of last check, Washington is now a 1-point favorite. I believe to start the week, Chicago was a 1-point favorite, and then it was a pick'em. But right now, Washington is a 1-point favorite with the over-under sitting at 38 points. That would mean that Vegas is projecting a final score of 19.5 to 18.5. Injuries of note, there are not too many key players out. Washington's tight end Logan Thomas is out, while the Bears are getting back cornerback Jalen Johnson. Donnie, what is your feel on this game?
My initial feel is I ain't watching that crap. I know it's hidden gems football, and I know we need to be informed on all the teams in which go in the NFL. But this game, it's a prescription for insomnia. I'm not, but which going to actually be professional about it. The Commanders on a short week dealing with a little bit of controversy because due to the comments of head coach Ron Rivera and pretty much throwing Carson Wentz not under the car, not under the bus, but actually rolling back and driving over him numerous times. But the problem with his comments on that is pretty much the quarterback's fault is he's a defensive coach. Ron Rivera is a defensive coach. Those great defenses in Carolina, and tell you the truth, in his little time in Washington, he's had a pretty good defense. Do you know where that defense is ranked this year? Bottom third. I believe at last glance, they have like the 27th ranked defense. Now, with Carson Wentz, you have to play complementary football. You have to run the ball, you have to take your shots, and you have to limit the turnovers, and you have to play great defense. Carson Wentz, I believe, is a top 10 ranked quarterback so far this season. It's just that his bad plays have popped up at the absolute wrong times. He's almost like the mistake that keeps on giving. So, and the Bears are just so nondescript to me. I feel bad for Justin Fields. I personally believe that Justin Fields might be ruined already just from the ineptness of the coaching that he's received since he got into the NFL. For the whole season, I think he's only thrown the ball 88 times for the whole season. Carson Wentz, on the other hand, is thrown for 210 times.
All right, so the thing about I agree with you about Wentz. The thing I think is the fact that he's ranking relatively high as a quarterback. I don't think is necessarily a compliment to him because they've been in big holes and he's just been throwing a lot after they're in big holes, and that tends to pile up stats. I think he has 10 touchdowns thrown, but he also has 6 interceptions in his 5 games. The only game he didn't throw a pick was against the Eagles when they were beat down anyway. So I don't expect good things from Wentz. I almost get where coach is going, even though to me it just doesn't make any sense to talk trash about your quarterback that you're not going to bench. But on the flip side, Justin Fields is getting a lot of hype for last week after he threw for, get this, 208 yards and 1 touchdown. But now granted, that was his highest passing total of the season. And it was his first touchdown thrown in the last 4 games, I believe. Yeah, last 4 games. He threw 2 against San Francisco on opening week. I don't think either one of these quarterbacks are very good. I don't think these offenses are very good. So they're not exactly helping the quarterbacks max out their potential. But like as far as Fields go, I don't know how much potential he has because he just hasn't shown much even in his opportunities to. Honestly, this game looks like a game of attrition, a punt fest. And at least in my mind, it might be who makes the least mistakes can eke it out. So, Donnie, what predictions do you have? Do you have any score ideas, or who do you think is going to win?
It would be very apropos if it ends in a tie, right? I mean, shoot, didn't we almost have it last week with the Colts and the Broncos? It was a punt fest. It was a field goal fest. Just because I like the brother, I'm gonna go with Chicago. There's no rhyme or reason of it. If you put a gun to my head, forgive the term. The reason I'll say Chicago is because I believe whatever little controversy that Rivera's comments caused in the locker room, if this was a regular Sunday game, I would say, yeah, there's no consequence to it. But being the fact it was a short week and the majority of that short preparation time had to deal with damage control and the fact that they're not a great team to begin with and they're on the road, I say all signs lead to Justin Fields getting his 3rd victory of the year.
All right. To me, I don't know. This game just looks like a game of attrition. It's going to be about field position, and probably who messes up more or first. So, I want to take the under, even with it being 38. But my only fear is that Carson Wentz will make a couple early mistakes, which will allow the Bears to take an early lead. And then Wentz will do some of his late magic at the end, probably to lose, but to score more points and throw them over and over. As the sick back door, I could easily see that happening. Of course, I could also see a 9 tie happening, like you mentioned before. I think I like Chicago, but I'm not particularly willing to bet on them. I like the under. I'm not going to bet that either. I think I'm going to pass on this game completely. The one note that I have that's kind of interesting is that Washington held Jalen Hurts to 20 yards rushing against Philly. And they haven't let any other quarterback gain any yards either. So it seems like they are able to contain the quarterback as far as rushing. But Justin Fields has gained 47 or more yards in his last 3 games. So actually, if I do sit down to watch this game, which I may or may not, I'm actually going to be focusing on that a lot. I'm going to be focusing on if they're able to contain as far as rushing. Because if they can, then he's going to have to throw it. And we're yet to see him actually win a game with his arm. So
yeah, Thursday night games are very hit and miss.
That's a nice way to put it. All right, enough of that. Let's talk survivor picks. Who is guaranteed to win? Doesn't matter the point total. We just won a victory. And of course, once you get a winner, you can never use them again. So there is a little strategy to it. This week is much, much tighter than last week. Last week, we had about 6 games with a big spread. Of course, I picked on my survivor. I picked the 1 or 2 of them that end up losing, which was not the best. But I am still alive, still have some hopes here. Just not as much hope as I had before. But this week is much different, much tighter. So let's focus on a couple of these games. One thing, I said I wasn't going to mention the Jets before. Let's talk about them now. The 3-2 Jets are going to Green Bay to face the 3-2 Packers. The Packers are 7.5-point favorites. So, Donnie, I have 2 questions for you. I think I already know the answer to one of them. Would you think the Packers are a team to pick in Survivor? And also, why are the Jets so disrespected?
Okay, I'll go with the Packers first. I would not pick the Packers on their best day because to me, they've shown themselves to be inconsistent. The lack of chemistry between Aaron Rodgers and his receivers is very apparent. Because if you think about their scheme is the same. Their coaching staff is the same. The defense is still good. They're not great, but they're good. What's the difference? The difference is Devontae Adams is no longer there. And Aaron Rodgers is yet to cultivate any type of relationship with any of the young receivers. His go-to receiver is ancient Randall Cobb, who's having a resurgence, but he's having a resurgence based on being Aaron Rodgers' go-to receiver. But yeah, I just went and picked the Packers whatsoever. Because I even said last week, they struggled against New England at home with a third-string quarterback that took them into overtime. And then the week prior, they had almost went into overtime with Tampa Bay that was missing their top 3 receivers. And this past weekend, more importantly to Big Blue, they coughed up a 17-3 lead in London. The Giants had nothing. You could have buried them. And the Giants showed a lot of resilience and came back.
That's the one I expected. That's where I expected to hear from you. At first, I thought you were going to go off about that because Green Bay just lost to the Giants. And now the Jets are 7.5-point underdogs. That seemed insane to me. And as much as, 1, I don't think the Jets are very good. And 2, their wins are kind of dubious. They won against the Dolphins' third-string quarterback. The Steelers are terrible. And they got pretty lucky in that comeback against the Browns. Their 2 losses against the Ravens and Bengals, there's no shame in that at all. But the 3-2 seems a little bit shaky. But to me, when a team just lost to the Giants, just had no output, and like you mentioned, those games before that were narrow wins. Why would the odds makers have the Jets over a touchdown underdog? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Nothing but disrespect. Because all I've been hearing since Sunday afternoon is, oh man, the Jets would have been better off if the Giants would have lost. Because now, big bad Green Bay is going to be pissed off. Why should we fear Green Bay. Why? Okay. I'm going to try to be focused because I can talk about the Jets for an hour, but limited time, so I'm going to be focused. I'm going to break it down. Coming out of the draft this past year, we had the most heralded draft class this year. We had Garrett Wilson. We had Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson. Our 4 draft picks, pretty much the first 33 picks. We had 4. Do you know what happened this past game? Sauce Gardner set the tone with a safety, not Teddy Bridgewater out the game. And he had an interception when Miami was driving, when it was still close. Breece Hall. Breece Hall almost had 200 yards in all-purpose yards. He had 100 yards. He had 100 yards receiving, 97 yards rushing, with a touchdown. Rookie. He's the rookie of the year. Zach Wilson playing very consistent. 14 to 21, 200 plus yards. The defense coming up with stop at the stop. We held Tyreek Hill to under 60 yards receiving. Yeah, okay. Everybody's like, well, but that was against a third-string quarterback. Okay, we played the first 3 games of this season with a backup, a 37-year-old statue in Joe Flacco. So why are we being disrespected? But this is a resurgence, and the biggest difference is we have a young nucleus. So yeah, I don't know why, but
all right, settle down. I just wanted to give you a chance to get your rocks off there because I wanted you to vent because I saw the line and I was like, yo, that's insane. Now, I actually do think the Packers are going to win. I don't think I would pick them as a survivor pick, but that 7.5 points just seems insane. Even if the Packers win by more than that, that line itself is just strikes me as wrong. All right, on to the next game I'm looking at. The 3-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to Pittsburgh to face the 1-4 Steelers. Tampa Bay is 8-point favorites. All Tampa Bay's receivers are back except for maybe Julio. And I don't think Kenny Pickett is very good so far yet. What's your take on this one? Would you pick Tampa Bay as your survivor pick this week?
I would lean close to it. Because that's showing that Pittsburgh quit against Buffalo this past week. It was 33, and it could have very easily been 76-3. Buffalo took the foot off the gas. Now they hit for yours truly. Single game parlay. Yes, baby. But yeah, Tampa Bay is trying to get some type of momentum, and this would definitely be a great place to continue their winning ways from last week against Atlanta. So that it wouldn't be a bad pick.
Yeah, I definitely see this one as one of the ones to go to. Like I said, I just don't think the rookie quarterback has shown much yet. That team in general hasn't shown much. I don't think that they're going to beat a good team, even if they are at home. So, and I think Tampa Bay is starting to feel healthy. So, to me, Tampa Bay seems like they should win this game pretty easily. But there's actually probably a game that I like a little bit more, and that is the 1-4 Carolina Panthers going to face the 2-3 Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are 10-point favorites here. Seems kind of odd because of the records, but the Rams are at home, and maybe more importantly, Carolina, Baker Mayfield is out due to injury, and also he's not good. PJ Walker's in his place. He was a star in the XFL, but in NFL, he hasn't done much. So I'm definitely rooting for the brother. I actually would, personally, outside of Survivor, I probably would love to see him win a game here, but it's hard for me to see it. I think the Rams are decisively better. Would you take this one as a survivor pick?
I personally think it's going to be a closer game than people realize. They still have McCaffrey. They still have Robbie Anderson. Walker is a competent quarterback if given time. But I'm just not that confident in the Rams. Until Stafford realizes he has more than one receiver that's not a receiver that's not named Cooper Kupp. I'm just not going to be right now. I don't even think they're going to get in the playoffs, but that's neither here nor there. That would be a solid pick because also Carolina lost their head coach this past week, Matt Rule, out of here. So they're kind of in flux. But at the same time, I hope they do try to rally around Steve Wilkes, because he was given the short shrift, if that's the term for it, when he had 1 year in Arizona when they ushered him out and brought Kingsbury in. So I thought he deserved better than that. But yeah, this is pretty good, pretty safe pick.
All right. Real quick, I have 3 more games to look at. Just pick the one that you think works the best for you. The 49ers are going to Atlanta to face the Falcons. The 49ers are 5.5-point favorites. The Ravens are going to New York to face the Giants. The 4-1 Giants. Baltimore is a 5.5-point favorite. And then lastly, we have the Cowboys. Not sure who's the quarterback this week yet. Going up against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a 6-point favorite. Like I said, these spreads are a lot tighter than last week. So out of these 3, which game would you focus on?
49ers and Falcons. Because as long as Jimmy G is behind, under the center, they always have the possibility of imploding. And Atlanta has been playing their teams, playing their opponent very tough. Tell you the truth, some would say that they got robbed last week with the phantom roughing the passer penalty against Jarrett when he sacked Tom Brady. Because if they get a stop and the way their offense is running, they could have took the lead, potentially won that game. But I mean, on the flip side, San Francisco is very good on defense, damn near great. But yeah, that would be the game I would go for. And if there was any potential upset, because I think I lean toward the underdogs, I would actually go with Atlanta.
Okay, so even though you'd focus on that game, San Francisco is not your survivor pick.
No, Atlanta would be.
Atlanta, you going with Atlanta 5.5-point underdogs?
Yeah.
You are a wild man. But I have to say, you were very accurate last week. So, I don't know. Run with the man if you want to. I think he's a psychopath.
At your own risk.
At your own risk, because I think Donnie Oooh is a psychopath. But, he was right last week. He was on fire. I wouldn't touch any of those games, by the way. And, this makes no sense as far as survivor picks. I would focus on the first 3 games, and particularly Tampa or the Rams. One of those 2 I am picking. All right. It's time for the outro. I think we're done. Please like, sub, and share. Make sure you check out the other shows on our YouTube page, on 19's YouTube page. Gimmick Infringement is not only a wrestling podcast, they are much more. And plus, they helped us look much more. And they helped us look a little bit more professional this week. Shout outs to them as far as the little background here. Tyler and Brad are the heart of 19 Media Group. And in all honesty, I try not to play favoritism when it comes to my dude Warren Shaw. So maybe I downplay him a little bit. But the man is a podcasting genius. He's co-host of the NBA Baseline podcast. Now he is also doing Believe in Celtics over on the Believe Network. And he also rocks the 19 YouTube page with dope interviews. He's interviewed greats as O'Shea Jackson Jr., Antoine Walker from the Celtics, Mac Wilds from The Wire, to name a few. But what really gets me is the levels of talks he has with each guest. Whether you know the names or you don't know the names, or you should know the names, each podcast is inspirational. I highly suggest you go and checking that out on this YouTube page. Donnie, do you have anything to say as we get out of here?
Check out my pod, Salty Daughter Donnie Oooh, on multiple streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor.fm, amongst others.
Good pods.
Check out.
Good
Oh
pods.
yeah, that's right. Good pods. Good pods. Yes, I think last glance, I think I'm the number 17th ranked independent podcast on Good Pods.
Let's go.
Yes. But yeah, you can check out our YouTube page at Mike Steph. As I said before, just put in a search engine. Eventually, you'll see Salty Daughter Donnie Oooh. Yeah, that's me. And I think that's pretty much it. I want to give a shout out to my wife, Mrs. Oooh. Love you. And my son, who's in the bedroom, but he's not going to come out. But yeah, I'm visiting my son this week. Hence,
hey, thank you for him opening up his studio to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mikey.
All right. I can be found on Hidden Gems Golf. We talk a little bit DFS betting there. It's still the place to go. Golf is the place to go as far as having an edge in DFS when you're not sitting at a computer and doing all those numbers. You still have a chance in golf. You don't have a chance in the other sports. I'm telling you now. I am also part of Hip Hop Hidden Gems. That is me and the historian himself, Willie Freeman. That's my boy. He knows some hip hop. We talk about some lesser known songs and or artists that need a little bit more attention. In our liner notes, we have some merch. We have Donnie Oooh merch. We have some 19 Media merch. Check out all the 19 Media merch and all the Donnie Oooh merch. Buy yourself a shirt. Go ahead. You know you want one.
Buy the shirt.
All right. I think that's it. I believe you are the one that does the sign off, though.
Hidden Gems Football. It's a part of the 19 Media Group. Goodbye.
This is a 19 Media Group presentation.
That's the Thursday night game?
The Thursday night game, yeah.
Oh, yeah. This shit suck. I ain't watching this shit.
All right.
I am not watching.
All right, I'm gonna do an intro, and then you could feel free to say just that.